November rain hammered against the windshield as Ethan Mercer drove deeper into the mountains of eastern Kentucky. Midnight had already passed, and Highway 15 looked completely abandoned. The road twisted endlessly through dense forest and steep black hills that swallowed every trace of moonlight. Ethan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He hated driving through Appalachia at night. Especially after what happened to his brother. 3 weeks earlier, Noah Mercer vanished while investigating an abandoned coal town known as Black Hollow. The police claimed Noah likely fell into an old mine shaft somewhere in the mountains. But Ethan didn't believe that. Because before Noah disappeared, he mailed Ethan a package. Inside the package was an old cassette tape covered in mud. Written across the label were 4 words. "If I go missing, don't follow the whistling." Ethan had listened to the tape dozens of times. Most of it was static. But near the end, Noah sounded terrified. He whispered about hearing people underground. People that shouldn't exist. Then came the sound. A long, low whistle echoing through tunnels. After that, the tape abruptly stopped. The storm intensified as Ethan passed a rusted road sign barely visible through the rain. Black Hollow population, 61. The bottom half of the sign had been scratched away. No lights appeared anywhere beyond it. Only darkness. Only trees. Only miles of forgotten Kentucky wilderness. Then Ethan noticed something standing beside the road. A man. Tall. Motionless. Wearing a miner's helmet. The figure raised one arm slowly. And pointed toward the woods. Then vanished when lightning flashed. Ethan slammed the brakes. But the road behind him was completely empty. That's when the whistling started. Black Hollow looked dead. Every building along the main road sat rotting beneath layers of rain and mud. Storefront windows were shattered. Rusted vehicles rested half-buried beside sidewalks overtaken by weeds. Ethan drove slowly through town while his headlights swept across empty porches and collapsing homes. No movement. No lights. No people. Yet something felt wrong. The town looked abandoned. But it didn't feel abandoned. Near the center of town stood an old gas station with a flickering light hanging above the entrance. Ethan stopped immediately. Someone had to be there. Inside, dusty shelves leaned crooked against the walls. Expired food and old newspapers covered the floor. Behind the counter sat an elderly man wearing overalls and a faded coal company jacket. He didn't look surprised to see Ethan. In fact, he looked worried. "You shouldn't be here after dark," the old man muttered. Ethan explained that he was searching for his missing brother. The old man's face changed the moment Noah's name was mentioned. "He went into the mine," he whispered. Ethan leaned forward. "You saw him?" The man nodded slowly. "Everyone hears them eventually." "Hears who?" The old man stared toward the rain-covered window. "The miners." Silence filled the station. Then came the whistle again. Long. Low. Echoing somewhere beneath the town. The old man immediately stood up. "You need to leave now." Ethan demanded answers. But the man grabbed his arm with surprising strength. Those mines were sealed after the collapse in 1974. 43 men died down there. Lightning flashed outside. And some folks say they never stopped digging. The power suddenly cut out. Darkness swallowed the station instantly. Then Ethan heard heavy footsteps moving beneath the wooden floorboards. Not above. Below. Slow. Wet. And getting closer. The old man refused to guide Ethan to the mine. But he finally told him where to look. A logging trail behind the church. "Don't stay if you hear knocking," he warned. Then he locked the gas station door behind Ethan. Rain poured harder as Ethan climbed the muddy trail with a flashlight and Noah's cassette recorder stuffed into his jacket pocket. The deeper he walked into the woods, the quieter everything became. No insects. No birds. Only rain. And distant whistling. After nearly 20 minutes, Ethan reached a rusted chain-link fence half collapsed into the mud. Beyond it stood the entrance to Black Hollow Mine Number 3. The opening looked enormous. Like the mouth of some giant creature buried inside the mountain. Old warning signs hung crooked beside the tunnel. Danger, unstable shafts, no entry. Someone had ripped the boards away recently. Fresh footprints covered the mud. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. "Noah," he called. No answer. Only the sound of dripping water. Then came 3 loud knocks. Deep underground. Bang. 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 Ethan froze. The old man's warning replayed inside his head. "Don't stay if you hear knocking." Another sound followed. Shuffling. Slow footsteps scraping across rock. His flashlight beam shook violently as he pointed it toward the tunnel. For one horrifying second, he saw figures moving deep inside. Dozens of them. Men wearing old mining helmets. Standing completely still. Watching him. Their helmet lights glowed faintly in the darkness like floating eyes. Then every light blinked out at once. Ethan should have run. Every instinct screamed at him to leave. But Noah was somewhere inside. And Ethan stepped into the mine. The air inside the mine felt unnaturally cold. Ethan's flashlight barely cut through the darkness as he descended deeper underground. Water dripped constantly from the ceiling. The tunnel walls looked wet. Almost breathing. Old mining tracks stretched endlessly ahead while abandoned tools rusted beside collapsed support beams. Then Ethan noticed something disturbing. Fresh footprints. Bare feet. Dozens of them. They covered the muddy floor and disappeared into side tunnels branching deeper into the mountain. Ethan continued forward. The whistling grew louder. Now it sounded almost human. Like several people trying to imitate a bird. Then he found Noah's backpack. It rested beside a broken lantern near a cave-in. Ethan dropped beside it immediately. Inside were batteries, notebooks, and another cassette tape. He shoved it into the recorder. Static filled the tunnel. Then Noah's terrified voice emerged. "If anybody finds this, don't trust the miners." Heavy breathing followed. "They survived the collapse somehow. They live down here now." A loud metallic banging echoed through the recording. "They keep whistling to lure people deeper into the tunnels." The sound suddenly changed. Screaming. Dozens of voices screaming at once. Then Noah whispered one final sentence. "They aren't human anymore." The tape stopped. Silence. Ethan slowly looked up. Someone was standing at the end of the tunnel. A miner. Tall. Thin. Covered in coal dust. Its helmet light flickered weakly. The thing tilted its head unnaturally far to one side. Then smiled. Its teeth looked black. Another figure appeared beside it. Then another. And another. The tunnel filled with shapes emerging from the darkness. Ethan backed away slowly. The creatures began whistling together. And all their helmet lights switched on at once. Ethan ran. The tunnel exploded with movement behind him. Boots slammed against rock. Whistles echoed through every passage. The miners chased him with terrifying speed. His flashlight beam bounced wildly across collapsing walls and narrow tunnels while he sprinted through the darkness. Then Ethan took a wrong turn. The tunnel suddenly opened into a massive underground chamber. And what he saw there nearly stopped his heart. An entire underground settlement. Makeshift beds. Old lanterns. Rusted mining equipment. Food cans stacked against the walls. There were dozens of people living beneath Black Hollow. Or at least, they used to be people. Their skin looked gray from years underground. Their eyes reflected light like animals. Most wore torn mining uniforms from another era. Some looked horribly thin. Others stared at Ethan without blinking. Children crouched in corners whispering to each other. An old woman rocked slowly in a chair while humming an ancient church hymn. Then Ethan noticed the photographs hanging on the cave wall. Missing persons. Dozens of them. Tourists. Hikers. Travelers. Every face marked with mud-covered handprints. A horrible realization hit him. The miners had survived the collapse. But isolation underground had turned them into something else. Something feral. Something monstrous. One figure stepped forward from the crowd. Its beard stretched halfway down its chest. Its mining helmet still displayed a faded company number. The old miner pointed toward Ethan. Then smiled slowly. "You came back for your brother." Ethan froze. The creature's voice sounded almost normal. "Where is Noah?" Ethan whispered. The miners all stopped moving. Stopped breathing. Stopped blinking. Then every single one of them smiled. And pointed deeper underground. The tunnel descending beneath the settlement felt endless. Ethan followed the old miner deeper underground while dozens of pale eyes watched silently from the darkness behind him. The air grew warmer. The smell grew worse. Rot. Mold. Something wet. Eventually they reached an enormous cavern lit by old generator lights hanging from wires across the ceiling. And there, chained beside a collapsed drilling machine, sat Noah. Alive. Barely. His beard had grown long. His clothes were filthy. And his eyes looked completely broken. "Noah!" Ethan rushed forward. But Noah immediately screamed. "Don't touch me." Ethan stopped. Noah stared at him in absolute terror. "They hear everything," he whispered. The old miner stepped closer. "We kept your brother alive." Ethan demanded answers. The old miner smiled again. "We needed him." That's when Ethan noticed the tunnel behind the drilling machine. It wasn't natural. The walls looked clawed open. Huge scratch marks covered the rock. Something had dug through the mountain from deeper below. A low growl echoed from inside. Noah began shaking violently. "They feed it," he whispered. Ethan's blood ran cold. "What is it?" The old miner looked toward the darkness. "Our punishment." Then the lights flickered. A gigantic shape moved inside the tunnel. Too large. Too fast. Ethan only caught pieces of it. Long arms. Pale skin. A face without eyes. The underground miners immediately lowered their heads. Like worshippers before a god. The creature exhaled. The sound resembled human whistling. Noah grabbed Ethan's arm. "We have to run now." The chains suddenly unlocked. And every light in the cavern went black. Complete darkness swallowed the cavern. People screamed. Whistles echoed everywhere. Then chaos erupted underground. Noah grabbed Ethan and dragged him through the tunnels while the miners shouted behind them. Something massive moved through the darkness. Fast. Far too fast. The walls shook violently as rocks crashed from the ceiling. Ethan could hear the creature hunting. Its breathing sounded wet and animalistic. Helmet lights flickered randomly through the tunnels as miners ran in panic. Some screamed for help. Others prayed. Then one scream ended suddenly. Followed by horrible crunching sounds. Ethan refused to look back. Noah led him through narrow shafts barely wide enough to crawl through. "We woke it up," Noah shouted. "What is that thing?" Ethan yelled. Noah looked terrified. "They found it after the collapse. Deep below the mine. It started taking people." Another whistle echoed behind them. Closer. The brothers turned a corner and nearly collided with one of the miners. The man's face looked completely pale beneath layers of coal dust. "Don't let it hear you breathe," he whispered. Then the creature grabbed him from the darkness. The miner vanished screaming into the tunnel. Ethan caught only one glimpse. An enormous hand. Too many fingers. Skin stretched tight over bone. The tunnels ahead began collapsing. Fresh air suddenly rushed through the darkness. The exit. Noah and Ethan sprinted harder than ever before. Behind them, the whistling transformed into something inhuman. Loud. Angry. Starving. And getting closer every second. The brothers exploded from the mine entrance seconds before the tunnel collapsed behind them. Rain hammered the mountainside. Cold air filled Ethan's lungs. For a moment, neither of them moved. They simply lay in the mud gasping for breath while the forest shook from the collapse underground. Then the whistling returned. From beneath the earth. Noah immediately stood up. "We need to leave now." The brothers stumbled through the woods toward Ethan's truck. But Black Hollow no longer looked empty. Figures stood silently between the trees. Miners. Watching. Their helmet lights glowed through the rain like distant stars. Ethan unlocked the truck with shaking hands. Both brothers climbed inside. The engine struggled. For one terrifying second, it refused to start. Then the truck roared to life. Ethan slammed the gas pedal. Mud sprayed behind them as they raced down the mountain road. The town disappeared into darkness behind the storm. Neither brother spoke for nearly 20 miles. Finally Ethan looked at Noah. "What happened after the collapse?" Noah stared out the window. "They dug too deep. Lightning flashed across the mountains. They found something alive under Black Hollow." Another whistle echoed faintly through the hills. Noah's face turned pale. "It followed us." Ethan slowly checked the rearview mirror. A single helmet light moved through the darkness behind the truck. Keeping pace with them. Miles from the mine. Miles from Black Hollow. Still following. The light suddenly disappeared. But the whistling never stopped. And according to local stories in eastern Kentucky, people still hear it in the hills at night. Especially near abandoned mines. A long, low, human whistle. Calling people deeper into the mountains.